one of Kurt's amazing abilities was not just that he was a great lyricist, but he had a really specific kind of signature melodic turn of phrase. And wondering what it was going to sound like when he was finished. It was always exciting, like a mystery, knowing like, oh, he's in there singing this track today.
A musician who seamlessly transitioned from being the powerhouse drummer of Nirvana to the charismatic frontman and creative force behind the Foo Fighters. However, while Nirvana united a generation of rock fans in the early 90s, their meteoric rise was often accompanied by tales of rock rivalries with other legendary bands of the era, such as Pearl Jam and Guns N' Roses. Today, Dave Grohl is celebrated as a unifying figure in the music world. But what does he have to say about the history with Nirvana and his exit at the time? Let's find out. The early 90s saw the explosion of the grunge movement, with Nirvana at the epicenter. The release of Nevermind in 1991 transformed the band into global icons, seemingly overnight, as they dethroned pop stars on the charts and redefined what mainstream music could look like: raw, rebellious, and deeply emotional. At the same time, Nirvana found themselves surrounded by other rising bands like Pearl Jam, Soundgarden, and Alice in Chains. Though they were all part of the Seattle sound, the media latched onto rivalries, framing the bands as competitors in a battle for dominance over the grunge movement. One of the supposed rivalries pushed heavily by the press was between Nirvana and Pearl Jam. Kurt Cobain himself even made public comments suggesting that Pearl Jam lacked the authenticity of grunge, sparking tension between the bands. Dave Grohl, however, never shared this view. In later interviews, Grohl explained, "A lot of the stuff that was said back then was so overblown. We were all young, and sometimes things were taken out of context. Most of us just wanted to play music." Similar animosity emerged outside the grunge scene, particularly with Guns N' Roses. Nirvana's anti-rock star ethos clashed with the larger-than-life persona of Guns N' Roses frontman Axl Rose. This hostility famously escalated at the 1992 MTV Video Music Awards, where Rose and Cobain exchanged public insults backstage. Dave Grohl himself joked about the incident years later, quipping during a concert, "We were just kids having fun, punking on the big guys." Despite being in the middle of the chaos, Grohl wasn't drawn into the bitterness that defined so many of these so-called rivalries. His focus was always on the joy of playing music and embracing the community that existed within the rock scene. Yet the intensity of Nirvana's rise, combined with the pressure to maintain their position as leaders of grunge, would soon take its toll. As Nirvana's fame grew, so did the tensions around them, much of it coming from external forces like media exaggeration and fan-created rivalries. Looking back, Grohl has said, "The truth is, we weren't at war with anyone. A lot of that drama just didn't matter to me. I loved playing music, and that's what kept me sane when everything else started to feel crazy." With Kurt Cobain's tragic death in 1994, the grunge scene itself began to fragment. It marked not just the end of Nirvana, but of an era where rivalry often overshadowed relationships. Grohl, however, would eventually reemerge, setting a tone of positivity that challenged the confrontational narrative dominant in rock at the time. How did Dave Grohl transform personal tragedy into the foundation of a new musical identity with the Foo Fighters? And how did he navigate comparisons to Nirvana along the way? In the wake of Kurt Cobain's death in 1994, Dave Grohl entered a period of profound grief and uncertainty. Having spent years as Nirvana's drummer, Grohl found himself at a crossroads. Should he leave music entirely or attempt to carve out a new path for himself? The decision to return to music came quietly, almost cautiously. In 1995, Grohl recorded a series of songs entirely on his own, playing every instrument and layering his own vocals. These songs would form the foundation of Foo Fighters' debut album, a project that marked his rebirth as both a frontman and a songwriter. One of the major challenges Grohl faced was establishing Foo Fighters without being overshadowed by Nirvana's legacy. Audiences and critics alike were quick to draw comparisons, questioning whether Grohl could step out of Cobain's shadow. Grohl himself was well aware of these comparisons, but maintained a sense of humility and focus. In interviews, he reflected, "I didn't want to compete with Nirvana, that's impossible. I just wanted to make music that felt good, music that helped me heal." Another unique aspect of Foo Fighters during its early days was the skepticism from fans and many in the industry who doubted if Grohl could successfully lead a band. After all, Grohl had been known solely as a drummer, but Grohl's ability to pump out infectious rock anthems like "This Is a Call" and "Big Me" silenced many of those doubts. His talent for crafting melodic, heartfelt rock songs quickly garnered respect, and Foo Fighters began to take on a life of their own. What differentiated Foo Fighters from Nirvana, apart from its optimistic tone, was Grohl's approach to collaboration. While Kurt Cobain had been the singular creative force for Nirvana, Grohl preferred an open, team-based approach with Foo Fighters. This collaborative spirit came to define their work, as the band experimented with different styles and sounds while fostering a sense of camaraderie. Moreover, rather than engaging in rivalries, Grohl embraced connections with other artists. He began to tour alongside rock peers like Red Hot Chili Peppers, Weezer, and Queens of the Stone Age, creating an image less about competition and more about mutual celebration. This shift was critical in distinguishing Foo Fighters as a new chapter, one that wasn't tied down by the rivalries and tensions that had surrounded Nirvana. By the late 1990s, Foo Fighters became firmly established as one of rock's most monumental acts. Grohl had proven that not only could he survive the incredible weight of Nirvana's legacy, but he could also thrive creatively in his own right without bitterness or rivalry. How did Dave Grohl's collaborations and attitude toward other musicians help transform old rivalries into opportunities for unity and respect within rock music? As Foo Fighters grew into a global phenomenon, Dave Grohl began to form relationships with musicians from all corners of the rock world, many of whom were considered former rivals during Nirvana's heyday. But rather than indulging in lingering tensions, Grohl actively worked to dissolve them, often taking the first step toward collaboration or mutual understanding. One of the most notable shifts occurred with Pearl Jam. While the media had once hyped a supposed rivalry between Nirvana and Pearl Jam, Grohl later became close friends with Eddie Vedder. The two performed together on various occasions, such as at charitable events and music festivals, showcasing a camaraderie that shattered any lingering animosity. Reflecting on this bond, Grohl said in an interview, "We came from the same scene, and we went through a lot of the same challenges. It was natural to come together." Grohl's collaborative spirit extended beyond grunge contemporaries. In the 2000s, Foo Fighters performed alongside Guns N' Roses, and Grohl himself struck up a respectful relationship with Axl Rose, a major departure from the bitterness that once defined the Nirvana GNR saga. In a particularly surprising moment, Grohl lent his throne to Axl Rose when the latter was recovering from a similar injury in 2016. This unexpected gesture became a symbolic moment of reconciliation between two once feuding camps. Grohl also took a distinctly inclusive approach to broader rock history. He collaborated with classic rock legends like Paul McCartney, worked with Led Zeppelin members John Paul Jones and Jimmy Page, and even brought artists like Taylor Hawkins into the spotlight as major contributors to Foo Fighters. Grohl described these collaborations as some of his proudest achievements, saying, "It's about breaking down barriers. Everyone brings something unique to the music, and there's no room for ego in that." Another turning point in Grohl's approach to old rivalries can be seen during his work with Queens of the Stone Age. Joining the band in the early 2000s to record drums for Songs for the Deaf, Grohl demonstrated his openness to blending musical styles and collaborating with artists who might have, in another era, been seen as competitors. This mindset not only elevated Grohl's reputation, but also fostered a culture of mutual respect within the rock and alternative music scenes. Beyond direct collaborations, Grohl's humor and humility played a role in easing long-standing tensions. For example, he publicly turned moments of rivalry into jokes, such as hosting barbecues for fans parodying Metallica's therapy session documentary, Some Kind of Monster, or openly laughing about the 1992 Axl Rose-Kurt Cobain MTV feud during concerts. Grohl's ability to balance respect with playfulness allowed him to foster genuine connections, proving that rock doesn't have to be a zero-sum game. In fact, his magnetism pulled veteran rock stars, younger indie musicians, and even rival fans together, helping fade out the era of divisive rivalries. Today, Dave Grohl represents more than just a rock star. He's a symbol of connection and positivity within the music world. Dubbed the nicest guy in rock, Grohl has transformed what it means to be a prominent musician in an industry that has historically thrived on competition and egos. One defining aspect of Grohl's current image is his relentless support for up-and-coming bands and younger generations of musicians. Unlike many veteran artists who might guard their place at the top, Grohl has made it a point to uplift new talent. The Foo Fighters have invited smaller bands to open for them on major tours, using their platform to shine a light on the next wave of rock. Grohl has said, "If no one helps the next generation, the legacy of rock will fade. It's not about holding on to the spotlight, it's about passing it forward." Another incredible act of mutual respect occurred in 2014, when Grohl spearheaded the acclaimed documentary series Sonic Highways. The series not only chronicled the Foo Fighters recording their album of the same name in iconic music cities, but also celebrated the history and legacy of the musicians who helped shape those scenes. By showcasing artists from genres far removed from his own, Grohl demonstrated his deep appreciation for music as a whole. Grohl's status as a unifying figure was further cemented during the global live music effort Global Citizen Live, where Foo Fighters performed alongside artists from wildly different genres, including pop and rap. This inclusivity further supported Grohl's long-held belief that music transcends boundaries, whether those boundaries are genre, age, or culture. More recently, Grohl has redefined his relationships with peers who were once part of the grunge era's ups and downs. For instance, Foo Fighters showed solidarity with surviving members of Soundgarden following the tragic death of Chris Cornell in 2017. Grohl has frequently dedicated songs and heartfelt speeches to his late friend, emphasizing the need for unity in difficult times. He remarked, "At the end of the day, we're all part of the same family, and that's what matters. There's no rivalry when you lose someone you care about." Furthermore, Grohl's ability to poke fun at himself has humanized him in a way few rock stars achieve. Whether it's sharing embarrassing stories, joking about onstage mistakes, or recounting moments of fan awe when meeting his own idols, he disarms any sense of superiority. This humility has not only endeared Grohl to fans, but also strengthened his relationships with fellow musicians. Finally, Grohl's accessibility as an artist sets him apart. Whether it's jamming in fans' garages as part of contests or simply taking time for heartfelt conversations during meet and greets, Grohl works hard to erase the invisible wall between rock stars and their audience. It's this grounded, approachable nature that has turned many of his past relationships, once shaped by tension or rivalry, into strong friendships rooted in mutual admiration. Dave Grohl's influence goes far beyond his music. By prioritizing unity, collaboration, and respect, he's not only built bridges with former rivals, but also set a new standard for how musicians can thrive together in an industry once defined by division. Dave Grohl's transformation from being the drummer of one of the most influential and raw bands in history to the leader of a unifying force in rock represents a significant evolution, not just in his career, but in the way the rock world operates. His journey shows that success doesn't have to come at the expense of others, and that rivalries, while sensationalized by the media, hold little enduring value compared to fostering genuine relationships. One of the most remarkable aspects of Grohl's legacy is how he's managed to intertwine gratitude and humility into every stage of his career. Unlike many icons who isolate themselves at the height of fame, Grohl has stayed grounded, constructing an inclusive narrative around music. His friendship and mutual respect with artists beyond rock, names spanning from Paul McCartney to Billie Eilish, demonstrate an openness that transcends genre, generation, and ego. By doing so, Grohl has redefined what it means to have a legacy in music. In a world where artists often fade or cling tightly to their glory days, Grohl has continuously found ways to innovate while honoring the past. His efforts to preserve and celebrate the history of rock are unparalleled. From covering and honoring classic rock legends with Foo Fighters to ensuring the grunge movement's spirit is remembered in a positive light. At the same time, he's proven resilient in addressing loss, finding ways to carry forward the memories of those no longer here, like Kurt Cobain and Chris Cornell, with dignity and respect. What sets Grohl apart is his willingness to be a steward for the community, not just his own brand or band. In moments of division, both past and present, he has served as a unifying voice. Whether it's lending his platform to smaller artists, collaborating with rivals on stirring live performances, or even just reaching out to support fellow musicians in times of crisis, Grohl has ensured that his legacy isn't limited to his own success, but rather the success of music as a collective art form. Moreover, his ability to embrace imperfection, whether breaking his leg on tour and finishing the show, or mocking his own early-day insecurities, creates a relatability that's rare among musicians of his caliber. This approachability has given him a unique position as a bridge not only between musicians but also between artists and their fans, proving that rock stars don't have to live behind an impenetrable wall of mystique or rivalry to remain relevant. As Grohl himself once said, "At the end of the day, the music is all that lasts. The drama doesn't matter when you look back. The songs are what people remember." Through his actions, Grohl reminds us that what truly matters in music and in life is connection, collaboration, and the lasting impact of shared creativity.